Ladies and gentlemen, there is this issue about Fred Okengo Matiang'I being a project of Uhuru Kenyatta. And other people even call him as the government mole. So those questions have been coming now and again. And Fred Okengo Matiang'I, even recently when he was being interviewed, he was actually asked, are you the project of President Uhuru Kenyatta? And as you remember, that same question actually at one moment made Uhuru Kenyatta not to be the president of this republic during the time of Nyayo era, when President, the late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, appointed Uhuru Kenyatta to take over from him with the KANU party. And at that time, the entire opposition called Uhuru Kenyatta as the project of the late Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. And at that time, many people believed that Moi wanted to continue his rule through Uhuru Kenyatta. And by then, many people had accused Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi of poor governance, of misuse of the resources of this nation, of making the economy of this nation to collapse. And by that time, the economy was doing towards the negative digit, -4. And when he appointed Uhuru Kenyatta to be his successor, the name project came into being. And this actually dismantled Uhuru Kenyatta completely, and he couldn't be able actually to be the president of this nation. And also, people also tried to say that Raila Amolo Odinga was actually the project of Uhuru Kenyatta. And in a certain way, it actually affected the win of Right Honorable the late Raila Amolo Odinga. And that name, project, is actually up again. And the person who is being called the project of Uhuru Kenyatta is not other than Fred Okengo Matiang'I. And I have always been saying in this platform that that question will continue coming back in the political arena, because the political class will always try to use it to bring Fred Okengo Matiang'I down. And in the recent interview, the same question came up. And actually, this is how Fred Okengo Matiang'I was able to answer that question.
As for whether or not, I'm someone in this project, I cannot rewrite history. I served as a cabinet minister under President Uhuru Kenyatta. As to whether or not that makes me his project, honestly, it's just splitting hairs at the end of the day, because people will say that, and then they say that, you are Uhuru's project, and they themselves are they're looking for the same Said Uhuru to talk to, and so on. I saw here when President Kenyatta went to State House to attend discussions on DRC Congo on behalf of the East African community. State House stopped everything they were doing that day and filled the social media with pictures. I think every single gesture, turn, nuance, and everything of
meant that there was a partnership in the offing.
It was all over social media and so on, in some very, desperado type approach. That is the same Uhuru that they are talking about. And in any case, by the way, everybody knows Uhuru was a successful president. Who wouldn't want to be associated with a successful president? But as to whether or not I am his project, that is the common gossip. And there could be 3 or 4 other people in his cabinet, like Wamalwa, who are ministers with me in the same cabinet, who are interested in the presidency. So who is the project? Why am I the project and not Wamalwa? Because you see, Wamalwa was Minister for Defense, I was Minister for Interior in the same cabinet. The current president was his deputy. Probably would be more a project than myself, because if ranking is the issue, he would be more the project than me. And I keep asking people every day, after I left the government, I went and took up a contract, hired on a competitive basis. Who did not take me there? I was hired on a competitive basis, took up a contract with the bank, worked on it and finished, came back. How is it that nobody's saying I'm the bank's project? Is it that the flip side of that argument is this? How is it that you're not crediting me for consistency? I served in the Jubilee administration under Jubilee president, implemented Jubilee policies. Why would I walk away from them now and go to articulate other policies? I believed in them then, I believe in them now. I believed in that system of management, I believe in it now. How the flip side of it is that, how is it that you're not looking at my consistency, that I am consistent? I did not say things then that I will regret today. That what I told Kenyans then and how I worked then is how I would like to continue working. Because the flip side of it is to look at the consistency of it. That I am consistent in the manner in which I do stuff. I have remained faithful to the public service journey that I have walked. I have not changed. I'm not flip-flopping. Today I'm talking Jubilee, tomorrow I'm talking other things. How is it that you are not crediting me for consistency in an environment where some of these people you are talking about have jumped parties 6, 7, 8 times? And that doesn't even make them, any better.
Yes.
You see, okay, I don't like spending time talking about myself and so on. You look at my working life. Except the 10 years I worked in the public service, most of my working life has been in the international environment. I have done interviews where I am hired by people who are not even Africans in the first place. I submit myself to an interview process. I have been supervised by people who are not even Africans and filed reports. Some of the positions I've held before, I wouldn't survive if I didn't perform. And then the people who are supervising me were not from my tribe or even my country for that matter, or my region. So I'm not socialized in my career, and the things I've done before and how I've worked have not been socialized in an environment where the seminal place of tribe and region is that important. When I left government in 2022 after the elections, I applied for a job at the bank. I was interviewed twice for the job. In fact, the second interview, there wasn't even an African on the panel. And I believe that what we are seeking is to provide a contribution, and that contribution you can make because of how God has endowed you with the ability that you have to make it. Because honestly speaking, whatever people do, and indeed for that reason, I am not, the right person because I don't hang on tribes and so on. So be it, because you see, they mean nothing at the end of the day. My tribe never changed. I was the same one as the Minister of Education. I'm the same one today. I was the same one as the Minister of Interior. I'm the same one today. When I fought digital migration, nobody cares to even ask the question, what would have happened if we had not migrated at that time? Look at our digital environment in the country today. I was the same tribe. I've never changed my tribe. But what drove me then, now, and always is get something done, get some work done. And when you go, there's no job anywhere you will do tennis. Wherever you are going to be hired, especially in the international environment, you're not hired and told, okay, we have hired you today as the regional director for Sunni, or the regional representative for Sunni in East and Southern Africa. Now, please come with your staffers. Bring your secretary, bring your accountant and everybody. You are hired, you turn up in that environment. And you find these people. The guy from Ghana is your program manager. This fellow from South Africa is the fellow from Zimbabwe is this and so. You sit there and get some work done. And then you find a way of making things happen in that particular environment. You imagine an institution like the bank. You are not told, okay, now we have hired you. What you do, can you come from Nairobi or from Keroka with your staffers? You are just given a job and people expect the results from you, and they will assess you and they will deal with you on the basis of the results that you register.
It is quite clear that word project is being used now and again. And if Fredo Kengo Matiang'I cannot be smart enough, that word project actually can be used to make him out of the race of 2022, of 2027 presidential election, and also can be used to make him not to win. But you have heard the way Fred Okengo Matiang'I has tried to answer that question. He has actually answered it very, very well. And he has said that he is being consistent with what he believes. He worked with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It was Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta who actually believed in him and appointed him to serve in his government consistently for 10 good years. And he believes also that President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta had better policies. He had worked better than William Samoei Arap Ruto. And that is why he believes in that. And he has said that if it is about that, he cannot relate the history. If whenever you work with somebody and you are called a project of that person, it's no person who have to choose that. There is no person who actually have to choose that. You find it happening. And that's why he has said he cannot relate the history. And also, he has tried to say categorically that the big picture on the play is about his capability to deliver to the people of this nation. And people should actually assess him, whether he is capable, whether he had delivered when he was working with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta in his government. That should be the big picture here. And to be very sincere with Fred Okengo Matiang'I, he is somebody who is actually a doer. He is a person who doesn't flourish on having rallies across the nation. He just flourishes from his action because he's being a doer. Because he is being workaholic. He's a person who performs. And that is what Matiang'I is telling the people of this nation, that whenever you evaluate me, be what? Be factual. Be real. Evaluate me of what I have done. Evaluate me of what I am telling you that I am capable of doing. If you elect me as the president, look at my politics. Is this the kind of politics you could like to have? Is what I am telling you the kind of governance you could like this nation to have in place? Because as you understand, in this nation, the way Moi told us that politics is a dirty game. And therefore, people can use that statement about somebody being a project of somebody, not because that somebody is bad, but because it is suitable. It serves their political agenda. And Kenyans must actually be of age, where they are able to evaluate one person to the other, and where they are very, very real, very, very practical, by looking at each person who is capable of leading this nation forward. And they must look at the person past what? Past doing. Because the past also will always guide what? The future. So from that interview, it is very clear that Fred Okengo Matiang'I is telling the people, is telling the public, that the same people who are calling me the project of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, they are actually dying to dine with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. He gave a very good example of William Samoei Ruto, that when Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta was the State House came into a standstill, and everybody was actually taking the pictures of both the former president and the current president, and they were actually putting them on what? On social media. And they were saying that these people can work together. And he's asking people, Why can't that be questioned that even the current president is a project of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta? Because also he worked with Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And sometimes it is good for the people of this nation to listen to themselves, to interrogate what they want. And when they interrogate what they want, they put it on the table, and then they look at those individuals who have given themselves that they will stop at presidency. They look at each. Can this person be able to meet my demands? And if they get that you are capable of meeting their demands, then they must elect you as the president of this republic. So the question of being a project, it is neither here nor there, because the way politicians use that statement is actually because it can help them to meet their dishonest functions. So for me, I think Kenyans at this time, they should be very sober. And I am very sure this time Kenyans are very sober. They should look at every candidate and evaluate the strengths and the weakness of each individual. And then they will actually come up with a conclusion who fits them better. And then from there, they will elect somebody to become the president of this republic. And for Fred Okengo Matiang'I, he should realize that that statement can be used actually to tame his political ambition to serve this nation. But the way he has tried to answer that question is quite recommendable. And at the end, he will render that statement to become very useless. And he should be consistent answering about that statement and putting everything into order. So, ladies and gentlemen, how do you think, or what comes to your mind when you listen to the way Fred Okengo Matiang'I was trying to answer that question? Did he answer satisfactorily? Please drop your comments in the comment section below. And if this is your first time to bump into this YouTube channel, I request you kindly to take a minute and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Give this video a like, share the video to your friends. And if your friends are lovers of politics, it's good to request them for us to subscribe to this YouTube channel. And with that, I say thank you. May God bless you all abundantly until we meet in our next political discussion. Goodbye.